Soon after he joined the Central Florida Facilitators, Jonathan Dunn challenged me on an important aspect of Toastmasters. I introduced Jonathan to Toastmasters. For those of you who know him,
Yes.
I'm sorry. In all seriousness, I'm really proud of Jonathan. He actually just won the Area 43 speech contest. He told me from the moment he joined, his goal was to become the world champion of public speaking, to win the entire international speech contest at Toastmasters. Early on, like most of us, he had a little problem with his ahs and ums. One day, he came to me with a video of Steve Jobs. Many of you are aware, Steve Jobs, along with being an amazing inventor, was a pretty good speaker. Very engaging, very entertaining. We watched this video together, and as usual, Jobs was fascinating, funny, fantastic. And every third sound seemed to be an ah or an I realized Jonathan had an ulterior motive for bringing me this video. Jeremy, if Steve Jobs can be a great speaker and not worry about his ahs and ums, I'm not going to worry about my ahs and ums when I'm preparing and practicing my speeches. I said, Jonathan, you don't have to worry about your ahs and ums. And if you don't, you also won't have to worry about winning any international speech contests. Fellow Toastmasters, I don't tell you this story because everyone has to be perfect all the time on their ahs and ums. In fact, if Jonathan was speaking at Apple, he could ah and to his heart's content. But here at Toastmasters, the audience expects him to avoid using ahs and ums. Use great body movement, have great vocal variety. That's what the audience wants to see. And great speakers know they have to know their audience. Let's talk about some of the variables that you may want to consider when preparing any presentation, whether here at Toastmasters, or at a big corporation, or at a charitable event, or even to a small group of friends. Know your audience. How do we do that? Here's some of the variables you may want to consider. Age. If there's a new social media sensation sweeping college campuses, may not be the perfect topic for AARP. Gender. A joke about women drivers may not fly at the junior league. Unless they're really self-aware and realize that all women are terrible drivers. See the looks I'm getting from the women? Yeah. Keep that one to yourself, fellas. Job and economic status. Are you speaking at Siemens Power Generation out at UCF? They'll know all the jargon, so you can use all the energy jargon like turbines and windmills and things that make sense to them. However, if you're going to talk to them about financial planning, you might want to keep the jargon to a minimum and see if you can slowly bring them into your world. Education level. Very interesting. This project taught me something here. When you're talking to someone who may, let's just say they're a high school educated group, and you want to give them a grad level speech, it's okay to bring the speech up a little bit. In fact, audiences prefer you to not patronize them, to speak at a higher level because they expect you to be an expert. You just want to make sure not to go too high, but go too low, and they may not appreciate that either. Political. A lot of times you're speaking to a fairly diverse group of political views, in which case you may just want to stay away from it altogether. However, there are certain groups that have certain affinities. If you're speaking to a group of doctors, they tend to be a little more conservative. You may be okay bashing Obama as a little bit of a joke in that meeting. If you're speaking to attorneys, you may be able to lean a little bit the other way and kick George W. Bush around a little bit. But in general, politics, if you don't know, it's kind of a taboo and you might just want to stay away from it. And the leisure activities. Telling this fantastic golf story that makes your point to a group of young surfers may not resonate. Knowing all these variables ahead of time can really help enhance your message. What else should we consider? Well, now that we know a little bit about our audience, we should definitely know our setting. You should always check out any setting you're going to be speaking at ahead of time, if possible. At the very least, see if you can see a picture of it. For instance, Scott, the Division D flyer has a picture of the room you'll be speaking in at the Division D contest. You probably at least want to see that if you don't have a chance to go by Rollins to check out the Bush Auditorium. Are you going to be speaking in an auditorium or in a room like this? Is it going to be classroom style? Will there be round tables where people will be trying to turn their backs to see you? Will you be standing in the front of a room in front of the speakers, or is it set up so that you're actually somewhere like here? You have to continually turn around and be aware of that. That's the seating arrangements you have to be aware of. The acoustics are important too. In this room, obviously, we don't need microphones. Jonathan wouldn't need a microphone if he was speaking in front of an entire ballroom full of people, but another friend of mine, David, who's also a member of ACE, would probably need a microphone if he was speaking to 6 people. That's just the way you have to know yourself, but you also want to know the room. Lighting's important. As you can see, today I'm using some flip chart materials here. Normal lighting's pretty good for this. If I had a PowerPoint, first of all, it'd be a hard room to use PowerPoint, and I knew that. I didn't bring it. Even though there is a PowerPoint presentation that goes with this presentation, I knew my setting. It wasn't going to work here. Where was I going to show the PowerPoint that everybody could see it? What lighting would be the problem? If you're going to have PowerPoints, you're probably going to need a darkened room. If you're going to have both, you'll probably want a lighted area for your flip chart and a darkened room for your PowerPoint. All things to take into consideration. Temperature is very important. If it's too cold in the room, they'll be too uncomfortable to listen to you. If it's too warm, they might fall asleep. Go into the room. If it's already really warm in there when you get in there, good chance that when it fills up, it's going to get hot. Know where the temperature control is. Pay attention to any outside noise when you're there. Is it something that can be controlled by closing the doors or possibly asking the staff of whatever place you're at to move outside noises away from your room? And other distractions such as music that might be piping into the room or gorgeous pieces of artwork that may be distracting to your presentation. See if you can turn the audience away or distract them, or more to the point, just reduce those distractions as much as possible. Another consideration for your audience to make sure that your message really resonates is timing. What time of day are you going to give your presentation? You giving it at 6 in the morning? Better have coffee. Giving it at a corporation at 4:30 in the afternoon? It better be a 15-minute presentation. They're not sticking around very long unless you're amazing. What other activities are going on? You're speaking at a conference where other people will be speaking at the same time. Maybe you see that you're speaking with right next to someone who's doing something very similar, or doing something that's going to be so relevant to most of the people there that there's no way you'll get great attendance. You want to talk to the organizer if possible and see if is there any chance that I can move my presentation some other time. And are you doing a long presentation? Should there be breaks in the middle? If you're giving a 2-hour or more presentation and you're not having any breaks, you might be really challenging your audience to focus on the later parts of your message as they're holding their bathroom break in, or they just are really thirsty, or just need a little bit of a refresher so they can come back and really focus on you again. Those are all really good things for thinking about ahead of time. A lot of times, though, one of the most important questions that we don't know when we're giving especially a new idea to a group of people is, what does the audience already know? I made a colossal mistake when I gave a presentation to a client the other day. I put together this fantastic PowerPoint presentation for insurance agents, explaining a very high-level concept that they already knew a lot about, and explaining how it worked. It was a 301 level course, if you understand what I'm saying. I tried to give it the other day to a client who had never heard of this before in their lives. They didn't even understand 101, and I was trying to force 301 down their throat. Needless to say, I didn't get a second meeting with that client. But my PowerPoint was fantastic, and I explained it so well to those insurance agents. What happened? I didn't take into account what the audience